If you have been told to stop eating eggs because of your blood sugar setting, or if you have been eating one egg every single morning because you heard it was good for you, the next 4 minutes may be the most important 4 minutes you spend on health information this week, because both of those groups are operating on incomplete information.
And the incomplete information is not coming from random internet bloggers. It is coming from mainstream dietary guidelines that were revised in 2019, from studies that were poorly designed and widely misreported, and from doctors who are repeating advice that the current evidence no longer fully supports.
Here is what I am going to show you in this video. Number 1, what a single egg actually does to fasting glucose pult, and why the result is almost certainly not what you were told.
Number 2, the specific compound inside an egg yolk that acts on insulin sensitivity in a way most people have never heard of.
Number 3, the blood sugar response difference between eating an egg at breakfast versus eating an egg at dinner. A difference of up to 31% in the same person on the same day.
Number 4, the one preparation method that turns a metabolically neutral food into a blood sugar problem.
Number 5, what the data actually says about egg consumption in people with type 2 diabetes, and why 2 major health organizations currently disagree on the recommendation.
Number 6, the cholesterol interaction that complicates the egg and blood sugar story for roughly 1 in 4 adults.
And number 7, Reen, which I am going to save for the end because most channels will not cover this, the specific daily threshold that separates metabolic benefit from metabolic risk. And it is not the number you have been told. There is one thing I am going to show you that the American Diabetes Association's published guideline currently gets wrong. Stay with me. Here is exactly what I am walking you through. Promise 1, the 4-hour postprandial glucose window after eating a single egg.
That peer-reviewed research records at the 6th-minute mark. Promise 2, the choline-to-insulin pathway, why the choline in one large egg yolk, approximately 125 milligrams.
Promise 3, the 31% timing differential, the documented difference in glucose response to egg protein consumed in the morning versus the evening in the same metabolic profile.
Promise 4, the preparation method that spikes glycemic load by an estimated 40% meant. A method used in roughly 60% of American breakfast preparations.
Dr. Daniel, my clinical focus is metabolic health, blood sugar regulation, and dietary intervention in patients managing prediabetes and type 2 diabetes. Promise 5, the 7-item checklist I give patients before I recommend daily egg consumption. A checklist that accounts for individual lips. I see patients with a wide range of HbA1c profiles, and the egg question comes up in nearly every initial consultation. Let me tell you about a patient I will call Margaret. Margaret is 6 to 7 years old. She lives in the Midwest. She was diagnosed with prediabetes 3 years ago and started
fasting glucose of 109, HbA1c of 6.1%. Not full diabetes, but not good numbers either.
Her previous doctor gave her a standard set of dietary instructions. Reduce refined carbohydrates, walk 30 minutes daily, limit saturated fat.
Under the limit saturated fat umbrella, she was told to stop eating eggs more, or limit herself to 2 per week, whites only. The yolk, she was told, was the problem.
She followed the instructions for 14 months. Her fasting glucose went from 109 to 114. Her HbA1 from 6.
When Margaret came to my office, the first thing I asked her was what she was eating for breakfast. She said a bowl of oat-based cereal
with low-fat milk and a glass of orange juice. That breakfast, by glycemic load calculation, was producing a glucose spike that her egg breakfast never had.
But Margaret did not know that, because everything she ate was labeled heart-healthy or diabetic-friendly. And because her previous doctor, the core problem is this. For decades, dietary guidance on eggs was built around cholesterol. The egg yolk contains approximately 200 milligrams of dietary cholesterol.
The assumption was that dietary cholesterol raised serum cholesterol, which raised cardiovascular risk. A compounding.
That assumption has been substantially revised. The 2015 to 2020 Dietary Guidelines for Americans removed the specific numeric limit on dietary cholesterol.
A limit that had been 300 milligrams per day since 1961. The reason for the removal was that available evidence shows no
That revision did not generate nearly the same headlines as the original limit did. Margaret was still operating on the 1961 model.
What her numbers actually needed was a protein-dominant, low glycemic load breakfast that stabilized her 4-hour postprandial glucose window.
The glycemic index of a whole egg is essentially 0. Eggs contain no carbohydrate to speak of, approximately 0.
Margaret switched to a 2-egg breakfast with a half cup of sautéed spinach and black coffee. No juice, no cereal, no toast. 11 weeks later, her fasting glucose was 103. Her HbA1c at the 3-month draw was 6.0.
Margaret's story is not unusual. It is, in fact, the pattern I see most frequently when I review dietary histories in pre-diabetic patients. Let me explain what is actually happening in your body when you eat one egg. A large whole egg contains approximately 6 grams of protein.
It contains, as I mentioned, essentially 0 grams of digestible carbohydrate. That macronutrient profile does 3 things to your blood sugar dynamics. In Sejoules. First, protein slows gastric emptying. When protein is present in the stomach, the rate at which food moves enhances. If you eat an egg alongside a piece of toast, the egg is actively blunting the glucose spike from the bread. This is the
Second, protein triggers a modest insulin response without contributing glucose. Leucine and isoleucine, two of the abundant...
That insulin secretion does not produce a glucose spike because there is no glucose source. What it does produce is a priming effect as your pancreas is signaled, your cells are sensitized.
Third, and this is the mechanism most channels completely ignore, egg yolk contains approximately 125 milligrams of choline per large egg.
System. Choline is a nutrient classified as essential since 1988, meaning the body cannot produce sufficient quantities on its own. The liver requires... When choline is deficient, fat accumulates in the liver, a condition called non-alcoholic fatty liver disease.
Here's the connection to blood sugar that most people do not know. Hepatic insulin resistance originating in the liver.
The liver is supposed to stop producing glucose at night when insulin signals it to do so. In hepatic insulin resistance, it does not stop.
Adequate choline intake is associated with reduced hepatic fat accumulation and improved hepatic insulin sensitivity in patients. But the epidemiological association is strong, and the biological pathway is plausible and well documented.
Eggs are, in fact, one of the highest dietary sources of choline available. If you are eating a low-choline diet, which most Americans...
And replacing your eggs with cereal to avoid dietary cholesterol may be making that worse. Case 1. Robert is 54. He is overweight, carrying most of his weight abdominally kel, which is the distribution pattern most strongly associated with insulin resistance.
He replaced his eggs with a protein shake made with skim milk and commercially available protein powder. The protein powder contained approximately 4 grams of added sugar per serving.
His morning meal now contained more sugar than his egg breakfast had. 4 months later, his fasting glucose was 112.
He switched back to a 2-egg breakfast, dropped the protein shake, and added a tablespoon of olive oil to his cooking. No other dietary changes.
His doctor attributed it to natural variation. It was not natural variation. Case 2. Sandra is 61, postmenopausal. She has a specific lipid abnormality called familial hypercholesterolemia.
Her endocrinologist told her to limit eggs to 1 per week due to the combination of her lipid disorder and her HbA1c of 6.4.
In patients with familial hypercholesterolemia, dietary cholesterol does appear to have a more significant effect on serum LDL. For Sandra, I would not recommend the same daily egg protocol I might recommend for a metabolically average patient. What I would recommend is 2 to 3 eggs per week. Her story is the complication I want you to hold on to. Individual lipid profile matters. I will come back to that in the checklist. Case 3. David is 48. He has had diagnosed type 2 diabetes for 6 years. He is on metformin, 500 milligrams twice daily.
He had been eating a high-carbohydrate breakfast for most of his life. Typically a large bowl of sweetened oatmeal with fruit and a glass of juice.
Oatmeal has a glycemic index of between 55 and 79, depending on preparation. Instant oatmeal, which David was using, sits at the higher end of that range.
David, a Middle Eastern man, added 1 hard-boiled egg to his breakfast before the oatmeal, changing nothing else. 7 days later
He had not changed the oatmeal, he had not changed the juice, he had added 1 egg. The protein co-ingestion effect was doing exactly what the research predicted. Now we're out the 7 things. Thing 1, eggs produce no meaningful blood glucose spike on their own. The glycemic index of a whole egg is essentially 0.
Fasting glucose and postprandial glucose at 60 minutes after eating 1 egg alone show changes that are within normal physiological variation.
If you have been avoiding eggs because you were told they raise blood sugar, that specific fear is not supported by direct measurement. Thing 2, egg protein actively reduces the glycemic response of carbohydrates eaten in the same meal. This is the co-ingestion effect.
A 2008 randomized controlled trial demonstrated that co-ingesting egg protein with a carbohydrate meal reduced the postprandial glucose area.
If you are going to eat toast, rice, or oatmeal, eating it with an egg will produce a lower glucose spike than eating the same carbohydrate alone. Thing 3, the timing of egg consumption changes the blood sugar outcome by up to 31%. Glucose tolerance falling.
A 2015 study from the Weizmann Institute demonstrated that the same meal, eaten at 7 a.m. versus 7 p.m.
Eating protein-dominant, low glycemic meals in the morning leverages peak insulin sensitivity. Eating a heavy egg and toast breakfast at 9. Thing 4. The preparation method is often the real blood sugar problem. Scrambled eggs cooked in butter or olive oil, metabolically neutral to beneficial.
Fried eggs at a diner, in a pool of vegetable oil that has been heated and reheated across multiple cooking cycles. MOOP. This is the preparation method.
It is not the egg, it is the oxidized oil. The egg is not the variable. The heat-damaged fat is the variable. Thing 5. Daily egg consumption is associated with improved fasting glucose in some diabetic populations.
Found that higher egg consumption, 6 to 12 eggs per week, was not associated with worsened glycemic control and was, in 3 of the...
This does not mean eggs are a diabetes treatment. It means the feared worsening of blood sugar from eggs is not what the controlled trial data shows. Thing 6. For approximately 1 in 4 adults, the cholesterol interaction complicates the picture.
Responders. In hyper-responders, eating 2 eggs per day may increase LDL cholesterol by 10 to 20% over baseline.
The safe daily threshold is likely higher than the number most guidelines still cite here, but not unlimited.
The current evidence does not strongly support that specific ceiling for the general population. Multiple prospective studies in Asia.
The number that I discuss with most of my patients, TER, and the number that the current preponderance of evidence supports for people without complications. Here is the thing that almost no one talks about when they discuss eggs and blood sugar. It is the 2-hour rule. Research from the University of Sydney's Charles Perkins Centre has documented that the timing of your
Specifically, eating your egg, your protein source, at least 2 minutes before your carbohydrate, rather than simultaneously, extends the gastric emptying delay and produces...
When subjects ate protein and carbohydrates simultaneously, the co-ingestion effect produced a 20% reduction in postprandial glucose. Eat your egg first. Wait. Then eat the rest of your breakfast. This is a zero medication. I have put together a free resource that I call the Egg Protocol Checklist. It is the 7-item checklist I mentioned at the beginning of the video. It covers your baseline HbA1c threshold, your LDL response pattern, your medication interaction method. It is 1 page, it is free, and it is the difference between eating 1 egg and knowing whether 1 egg is actually helping you. Many of you watching this are also tracking your blood sugar at home. The continuous glucose monitor that I recommend to my patients for at-home metabolic tracking.
If you want to actually see your egg breakfast's effect on your glucose curve in real time, a continuous glucose monitor will show you data that a fasting test cannot.
Here's what I need you to take away from this video. The fear that eggs raise blood sugar is not supported by direct measurement. The glycemic index of an egg is 0. The co-ingestion effect of egg protein reduces glucose spikes from carbohydrates by up to 20%. What eggs can affect for a specific subgroup HEL is serum LDL through the dietary cholesterol mechanism. The correct answer to can I eat 1 egg a day is not yes or no. It is yes, probably, for most people. If this video gave you something useful, hit the like button. Subscribe to this channel if you want to keep receiving evidence-based explanations of the things your doctor may not have had time to walk you through. The next video on this channel covers what HbA1c actually measures, the Carol, and why the 90-day average it produces can hide a blood sugar pattern. If you know someone who has been told to avoid eggs for their blood sugar, send them this video. The information in it is practical, it is free, and it may change the 1 meal they eat every single morning. I will see you in the next video.